endless possibilities stretched out before you.
Trust in your own power.
Whatever happens from now on, you stand firm and face your destiny without fear, but with courage.
Back into another crossroads again. This is your Kid Rose Chaos Gaming. And I said, I don't really usually do talk about any of the political system in gaming, but Final Fantasy is a big franchise I love, obviously for reasons. The Valentine that comes in my username with my first name is because of Vincent Valentine. I think everyone should know that. So we're at another crossroads again, and look, this is not going to really help them. Although they're at it again. Now, it's more than just defense in this. If you even make even a slight criticism to someone like Sweet Baby Inc. or any of the other, DEI agency, let's just say, let's just be honest, they're all the same. And that's one thing. Now, that I will say, and I will come out and say it, just so it stays on record. If you are really going out of your way to harass Sweet Baby Inc. and be racist and all the horrible things and threatening them and stuff like that, you're no longer an archfiend. There's a difference between criticism than there are threatening to do anything to people or doxing. We're not doing none of that stuff. If you do any of that stuff, you give me your archfiend card right now. And I'm talking about if you really are going around here doing that stuff. But there is a difference between constructive criticism and just straight up threatening. And it just does not look good. It's like, the thing is, people wouldn't be so critical if it wasn't because of the fact is this is about controlling a narrative and changing everything to what they like, rather than, try to make something new. Or when they try to make something new, they get mad at the fans for not liking it. Which is, I think is, again, there's a difference. I don't like how DEI companies are handling stuff, personally. I've already made the video talking about that Cyan Mar guy who, said, I wish I had muscles to beat up gamers. Now, that's where I'm like, okay, bud, now you're doing too much. Now you need to stop. You need to quit doing that kind of quit doing that kind of stuff. So, but it's like the point is that this is just not gonna look good for the Square Enix brand to do such stuff, especially with Part 3 coming out. That's like, you look and look. I'm gonna be honest. I'll be the first to say I like Final Fantasy 16. Fans didn't. So you lost money from that. You lost money from too many mid games in Part 2, which is Rebirth and the multiverse stuff. And for hit detection being part of your credits, it wouldn't be. Look, now I will say that, if someone's like threatening or causing some, serious issue, oh yeah, no, they need to be blocked. But if someone's like saying, I don't like the way something is handled, that doesn't constitute a threat at all. Realistically saying. This is just one of those that I think that if Square Enix would just, stay out of it and just make a thing that, against the people that are doing something, or at least just block and don't say nothing, because here's the thing. Nobody asked for this take. Nobody asked for you to make a statement to say, I'm going to block people who make criticisms or to Sweet Baby Inc. and hit detection and stuff like that. Nobody said anything. You could just, do it. Nobody had, and it didn't have to be mentioned or anything like that. It didn't have to be mentioned. Sorry, there was an ad. It could have gone out of the way without being mentioned. And that's where I'm like, yeah, that's not going to help your brand. Now, I understand, like I said, two people who are causing problems. Even I will say, I will ban people who's going out here causing legit problems. But to people just saying they don't like how things are being done, doesn't necessarily mean a threat or criticism of any kind. And you do have the right of freedom of speech to say you don't like the way something is being done. It's like it's just like let's say I go out to eat. I like Chinese food. I order some sesame chicken. I get General Tao's chicken instead of sesame chicken. I think it's more than the right to say, okay, and I'm being respectful about this. I think it'd be in my right to say, I didn't order General's chicken. I wanted sesame chicken. That doesn't constitute as a threat or trolling or anything. I'm being polite about it. So I just want to know, does that mean even people that are being polite about some stuff are going to get banned too? Because I mean, this is what's making things look better. You're doing you're doing a whole lot for censorship, a whole lot, and then wondering why people are. That's what's making people wonder. See, people look at the actions of people. The people in these DEI agencies, besides their hiring process, they're forcing games, movies, anything of entertainment to be whatever they want to be. Which I'm gonna be honest, you could stay out of that. If your company wants to go ahead and pay for that stuff, it'll just pay, and the numbers dropping because a lot of people don't really. It's not really wanted or needed. But it is a problem when you got the people that are like the faces of these DEI companies going out here doing all this extra crazy stuff to, censor, blacklist and everybody else. That's where I'm like, no, okay, now you lose me with that stuff. Now you lose me with that stuff because it's like the only criticism I got against, those agencies, besides the fact that it's obviously forced diversity, obviously. And yeah, I can get over that because, like I said, it's up to the companies whatever they want. If they want to do that, they can. But I have a bigger problem with that. It's the narcissistic people that run these agencies or employees of these agencies going out here saying I want to get big muscles so I could beat up another group of people. Then you lose me. That's where I'll give the criticism on that. It's like, okay, now you lose me because why would I want to take you seriously if you're going to go around here threatening people, being a tough guy? Especially for the fact that you're trying to get your stuff sold. When you isolate people, turn your back on the people that would normally support you, then there's a huge problem. Then there's a huge dissonance. I mean, don't get me wrong. For me, I'm still gonna get Part 3 of Remake because I want to complete the saga, and I love Final Fantasy. And 7's always been my favorite. Obviously, I'm gonna support everything with 7's name on it, and I did like Final Fantasy 16. I'm a Final Fantasy boy. I understand. I'm gonna support that stuff, of course. But I can't blame the rest of the fan base for wanting to leave. I can't blame the rest of the fan base to be a little discouraged if we're going to, broadcast how much we don't like a set group of people because, maybe a few or two, or maybe they just didn't want to hear what other people had to say, and they took it as an attack, and it is it isn't an attack. People have been saying that, there are certain things that are welcome and unwelcome. Now, Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, I will say positive things. The only DEI thing that they did was create a character that sticked within the card game. But it didn't affect the main story, so it's not like you guys are guilty of changing the story. Now, you may have toned down some stuff, and I'm not mad at the censorship of Tifa and the Nibelheim flashback because she was 16 years old and going through a very distressful situation. It wasn't something that we should be gooning off of. I agree with that part. So it wasn't done poorly, but when you go around here making a statement, I'm going to go block someone for criticizing these agencies. And they talk about criticize, so that means even constructive criticism and someone can do better. Then that's where I'll be honest. That's where the lines. That's where I'm like, okay. First of all, who asked? Number one. Number two, that's kind of isolating isolating the audience that would go out of their way to support anything. Especially most people, if they grew up on a PlayStation, you grew up on Cloud, Sephiroth, Final Fantasy, and stuff like that. Hell, there's people that even grew up on the Super Nintendo, Final Fantasy VI, that started their Final Fantasy journey at Final Fantasy VI when it was Final Fantasy III on the Super Nintendo. And then when you go around here making blank statements that all gamers, all this is where you lose me. And then when you go out here, saying that it's wrong to do something, but then to do the same thing right back to other people. This is where I will say the crossroads has kind of been crossed. And the reason why we keep talking about it. Now, again, I will still be supportive of these projects, but I'm just saying you can't blame people for dropping off. You can't blame people for not wanting to support the next thing, especially when you go out of your way to say stuff like this. If you're gonna be working in an entertainment field, you gotta be completely professional. You gotta act the way you do as if you're working at McDonald's, working at Hy-Vee, working at any place else. Your social media activity should honestly reflect great on you. I know that's not always the case because everyone posts memes and jokes that could be raunchy and stuff like that. That does happen. Or they can, use it as a diary, which I wouldn't recommend doing. But you should be trying to be more reflective of what the company's image is. If you want to do put diversity and stuff like that, maybe do a little bit more research on how you could put diversity in something without coming off as ignorant, and also have your employees, watch your employees' social media usages, because if you have a cyan mar, that's going to make you lose a lot more money, because that's not a good example of someone who is making, who are developing the games. I think the game devs, especially since they have to use social media to communicate with the fans, it's going to be hard to communicate with the fans if you cut them out because you don't like certain feedback. Now, like I said, if it comes to the fact there are people out there who are harassing people, doing all this stuff that they should not do, even I will distance myself from someone like that. But it's a different case altogether because it happens to be these DEI agencies, their employees are going out here doing all the unprofessional things. Now, hopefully, Square Enix can actually elaborate on this. As someone who loves Final Fantasy, that would be perfect for me. But that's my thoughts on the whole thing.